アニゲーミング行よ楽しい冒険スタートだ
Welcome everyone to otakusandgeeks.com Annie Gaming, my friends. We are on episode 17. Thank you for sticking with us with this. I'm enjoying playing these classic games, or some good, some bad, but I'm enjoying revisiting games from my teens and early childhood. And today, this one holds a special significance for me, not just because I love this game so much, it's one of my favorite fighting games, but because this actually was one of the first games that I covered once I changed the name from Artistic Wings to otakusandgeeks.com. And this was one of my first games that I actually got press access to. So it's been 15 years later. I'm still getting review copies and going to anime screenings, red carpets, and things like that. So I've just been very blessed as I'm wrapping up the twilight years of this thing. And I'm looking back, and I was like, you know what? We're 15 years now. I want to just look back to year one, and I saw this game. I was like, hey, this is definitely Annie gaming. As you can see from the poster here that I got autographed, still have it hanged up in my apartment. And of course, you can see the picture here with the producer Ryota. And yeah, we're gonna be talking about Tatsunoko versus Capcom. So this was a crossover game back in 2010 for the Nintendo Wii as part of the Versus Capcom series, and it brings it together iconic characters from Capcom's gaming history and Tatsunoko's production anime catalog, delivering a unique fighting experience that stands apart from its contemporaries. So let's talk a little bit about the story. Of course, we're going to do story, gameplay, graphics, and sound. And let's talk a little bit about the little bit overview of the story because there's not really much here in terms of story because unlike many modern fighting games that incorporate a deep narrative element, Tatsunoko vs. Capcom follows a simple but effective crossover story. The game's arcade mode presents different endings for each character, but the core premise revolves around an interdimensional crisis that forces Capcom and Tatsunoko universe to collide. Players battle through a series of fights before facing off against Yami, the final boss from Okami, who threatens both worlds. And the individual endings are entertaining but heavily not story driven, unfortunately. And some reference past games or anime, adding a little bit of nostalgia for the fans. And yeah, the story might be disappointing. I will have to say is more of the weakest elements in here, but where the game truly shines, of course, my friends, is the gameplay. Let's talk a little bit about the gameplay, my friends, because this game here was something that I absolutely love. I mean, I still play it till this day, as you can see from my gameplay footage here. But I love this game. It's one of my favorite fighting games. It's from the Versus Capcom Versus series. And one of the standout features of Tatsunoko versus Capcom is its 2v2 tag team system. Unlike Marvel vs. Capcom 2 3v3 battles, this game simplified that type of concept and composition while maintaining its depth. And players can choose two characters, as you can see me have Technoman and Chun Li, which are my favorites, and they can switch between them mid-match, just like you could do in Marvel vs. Capcom, and you can execute combos, extend attacks, and recover health in the background. But they also introduced this thing called the Baroque cancel mechanic, and it was a key innovation in Tatsunoko vs. Capcom. This Baroque cancel system allowed players to sacrifice a portion of their red health to extend combos and increase damage. This mechanic adds a risk reward element, encouraging aggressively and strategic play. Skilled players can unleash devastating combo chains by strategically sacrificing their health. So you had to be, especially if I say like I was facing Dez. This is the mechanic I would use on Dez all the time. Was this Baroque cancel mechanic because I really just Dez has always been a beast when me and Dez play fighting games, but it was something that I felt you had to kind of use because if you're at that moment where you are feel like you're about to get handed, this would be a great way to just kind of counteract all of that. And they also had this thing called Mega Crash, and it was another unique feature. It was a defense mechanic that let players sacrifice health and a portion of their super meter to break out of combos. So if you were getting your ass handed to you, you can use the Mega Crash to break the combo, and this gave players an escape from highly damaging sequences, though using it too often can leave them vulnerable and due to the health loss. Of course, just like you expect in the Versus series, Tatsunoko Capcom lacks dedicated assist mechanics like Marvel vs. Capcom 3. It does allow players to call in their partner for a variable hyper combos, which trigger simultaneously super moves for massive damage. And of course, what will a versus game be without those damn giant characters? One of the most distinctive aspects of Tatsunoko versus Capcom is the inclusion of giant characters such as the Gold Lightning and the PTX 4080. These characters are single fighting teams and cannot tag out, but they compensate with enormous health pools and powerful attacks. Their unique play styles create an interesting and frustrating dynamic if you're playing this game on hard. I can't tell you how many times the PTX40A was whipping my ass every time I got to the arcade mode. I dreaded facing this guy, this thing. It was so annoying on the hardest level. I tell you, folks, it was really, really such a pain in the rear. So let's talk a little bit about the graphics and the presentation. Let's talk a little bit about the graphics and sound. And for a Wii title, Tatsunoko versus Capcom boasts an impressive cel-shaded character models. What's that word? Keyword that we've been talking about in gaming for a while now. Shell-shaded graphics here. And it captures the anime aesthetics of Tatsunoko's heroes while staying true to the Capcom design. And the animations are fluid with vibrant colors and dynamic special effects that really make the battles visually exciting and appealing. The stages are also a highlight, featuring backgrounds inspired by both franchises. Notable examples include a futuristic cityscape from Lost Planet and a classic Tatsunoko anime backdrop, all brimming with energy and detail. And believe it or not, despite the Wii's hardware limitations, this game has a steady FPS clock time of 60 FPS, which was very smooth for gameplay. And as far as the sound goes, it's a mix of remixed Capcom themes and original tracks tailored for Tatsunoko's characters. The music is upbeat and energetic, and it does a great job of complementing the fast paced action. The Japanese voice acting remains intact, for those who are wondering, a rarity for those localized games at the time, and it added that authenticity to the anime characters. The sound effects pack a punch with satisfying hit impacts and explosive super move audio cues. While some may prefer English dubs for Capcom fighters, the decision to keep the original voices enhances the crossover feel. And upon release, this game received critical acclaim with praise directed its balance of mechanics, smooth gameplay, and unique character roster. However, some criticized the lack of online features as the Wii's online infrastructure was very, very limited. The game today still holds a 86 over 100 on Metacritic and various other websites, and many fans consider this a hidden gem due to its limited availability. And while it's never reached that Marvel versus Capcom levels, this is still for me one of my favorite fighting games of the Versus series. It's very, very underrated. And you know why it stands out? It has a unique roster featuring obscure but beloved anime characters such as Karos. Of course, we have Techno Man. Of course, we have our usual Capcom favorites like Ryu and Mega Man. And it's accessible yet deep combat. It's easy to learn mechanics with advanced techniques like the Baroque cancellation system for competitive play. It has a distinct art style with that cell shaded visuals that Capcom and Tatsunoko characters coexist. So to wrap this episode up, I'll have to say, yeah, this is in my top. I would say, yeah, it's in my top five fighting games, believe it or not, when it comes to the Capcom series of Capcom fighting games. I might do a top 10 down the line of best Capcom fighting games. But let me know what you if I should do that. While it was exclusive to the Wii and it may have limited reach, it remains a standout in the Versus Capcom franchise. Fans still hope for a sequel or a part to modern platforms, which I think it highly deserves. Hint, hint, Switch 2. At least port this game. And that's going to wrap up Any Gaming episode 17. This is Justin. If you like what we did here, hopefully we earned your subscription. If we did, please hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the notification bell helps out the channel tremendously, my friends. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace, love, and happiness to you all. Later days.